There's a place He comes to me. Though I'm blind, He helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see Him face to face.
This is Kurt Kaikkonen, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Waterford, at your neighborhood church. Today on Face to Face, we'll be in the book of Genesis. So grab your Bibles and let's get started. If you want to hear this complete message in its entirety, go to yourneighborhoodchurch.com, where you can download Your Neighborhood Church app at the App Store. And so by this, it says that humans are attracted to angels, and in some cases, apparently, some of the angels are attracted to humans. And here it says that the children that were born to them were giants, and they were mighty men of old. And that word giants is that word Nephilim, which means fallen ones. And so it is possible that this passage is describing some type of human-angel hybrid or some demonic crossbreed. But it says that they were not only just giants, but that they were mighty men. And so what this makes me think of, it makes me think of all those half men, half gods that were created in Rome and Greek, where they had like Achilles and Hercules in their mythology, and that maybe they weren't just some type of Roman type comic book heroes. And there's a Bible teacher who I really respect, and he believes that when these giants died, because they died in the flood, and these mighty men, that he believes because they didn't really have a spirit of a man, and they weren't really angels, but that they couldn't die, that they're bound in the earth. And he actually believes that that's what became demons. That, I've always been taught that demons were fallen angels, but he makes a distinction between fallen angels and demons, and that they're not the same thing. And he talks about how a demon always wants to inhabit a body. And we read that in the New Testament of how they want to inhabit a body. And now there's a third view. And this third view I've only heard of just recently. And it's not really a natural view, but it's also not a mysterious, spiritual, demonic, weird view either. But what it is saying it's kind of a combination of the two. And this is held by a Bible teacher that I respect too, who's actually a really good friend of the guy that I just talked about. They listen to each other's teachings, and they're really good friends. And this view is saying that the men, well, they're natural men, but he's saying that they're demonically possessed men. And that these demonized men, they had powers and abilities that they gained from those demons that inhabited them. And it's a lot like what we hear of people going around and they making a deal with the devil to get these certain powers. And you always hear it about like some gifted musicians, how they had sold their soul to the devil to get this power. And we hear about it in other things too, like, witches, trying to get magical powers and fortune tellers trying to do their thing. But this is saying that these demon-possessed men, that they were picking women with physical attributes that they desired, and that they were trying to make a genetically superior demon-possessed people, people that would rule, they were practicing a type of eugenics, a breeding program to produce a stronger race of people, a larger race, a race of leaders, more intelligent, and a race of warriors. And the world has seen this type of thing before. It was used by the Spartans. Every child born in Sparta was taken to the leaders, and it was judged if it was worthy to live and to be a Spartan. And we also saw when Hitler, he was planning on building his master race. And part of the reasoning for this man having this view is that the word used for the calling them mighty men of old, it still uses the word men. And we're also told that these types of giants were not only found before the flood, but they're also found after the flood. Whatever view you tend to lean to, you're in very good company, because there are very, very good Christians that believe all three of these views. But the one thing that's really clear about these times is that these days were very, very evil, and that there was a lot of demonic activity. And that man, he was on a course to destroy himself. And we're told that every intent and thought of man's heart was set on evil continually. And sometimes, we try to lead ourselves to believe when people get older that they naturally become a little better, or they become a little kinder, or maybe even naturally a little bit more godly. But that's really not the case. And we read here where God had shortened man's days to 120 years. And that's about how old the longest of us live now. But some people don't think that means that. They think that when that statement came out, that it meant that it's going to be 120 years until the judgment. But the truth is, without Christ, the longer we live, the more wicked we live. You can be an old man and have wicked things going on in your heart all day long. You just don't have the strength to perform them anymore. So this is the view that we get for Noah. And we can see why God did have to intervene to save man. And we can see the same things in our day, that if God doesn't do something soon, because we can see evil in any news channel, and it's not just one little area, it's the whole world. It's not like even one little area, it's like every area of life is just falling apart in front of our eyes. And so God needs to intervene to save man again. And if we're not saved, and if you're not saved, today is always a good day for God to intervene into your life to save you. And the thing is if you ask him, he will. He will save you, and you will receive his forgiveness. Because his son Jesus, who is the other one made in the likeness of God, he paid the price for us so that we can have peace with God, and that we could be like Noah, and that we would have rest. All right, if anybody needs prayer for anything, we're here. We'll pray. We can go to the prayer room or just grab us. I'm going to sing one more song, and we're done. So last week when we left off, we had this pre-flood world. We figured about maybe up to 7 billion people. And we're told here that the thought of the peoples were evil continually. And God, for almost 1,000 years, had given them a man whose name was actually a prophecy. And that was that man, Methuselah. And his name meant, when he is dead, it'll come. And he was speaking of the judgment of the flood. And we have to remember that this man, Methuselah, that was Noah's grandfather. So now the countdown begins. And God says there'll be another 120 years, and that's how long he's going to strive with man. And the last we read last week, that Noah was only 500 years old, and he had 3 sons. And now we're reading and we're being told that God hates the way that the world's become, and is saying that he's sorry that he ever made man. And that's because the Lord never made man to become what man has become, what man has made himself into. Because when God made man, he made him in a very, very high position. He made him like himself. And what man had made himself into was very low, and it was actually lower than the animals. But God knew all this, and he knew all this was going to happen before the world was ever created. But the Lord actually does have a plan. And even though that plan is hidden from us, we're told that it will be revealed in the end, but that until it is revealed, that all creation will groan. And so this bleak time in human history is much like our own bleak time in human history. But we read that Noah, he found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now, it doesn't say that Noah earned grace, but he found grace. because grace is not a reward for doing good, and grace is not a gift for living a good life. Grace is God's response to the faith that we place in him. It's given by believing God, and it's by acting on that. And that's what Noah did here. He believed God. He believed about that destruction that's going to come upon the world. And the way that Noah shows his faith in what God said is by this building of an ark. And there's a part of this where it says that he found grace. To me, it sounds like that he didn't always have grace. I believe that Noah probably at one point in his life, he had come to the end of himself, and he must have given his life to God. And that's probably when he started walking with God. It's just like his great-grandfather Enoch. It says that he didn't walk with God till he was 65 years old. And that's because these people, they're just like us. Before they walked with God, they walked in themselves. And when they came to the end of themselves, then they gave their life to God and they followed him, just like us. Now, walking with God is following him. It's just not adding God into our lives, into the direction that we're already going. It's not God ever following us. It's about abiding in him, that we let him lead. We have to come to the end of ourselves, and we have to give him that right, that we give him that right over our life. These men, they were not good in themselves. They're like us. They were fallen men. But it appears in this time that the rest of the world, they didn't have a place for God in their own lives because they were busy with their own lives. But we can see that Noah gave his life to follow God, and he walked with God. And we can see that fact that he walked with God because he built an ark. And it's exactly the same in our lives. When he reveals something to us, it might be something he wants us to do. Maybe it's build an ark, I don't know. Or maybe it's something he wants us to give, or maybe he wants us to move to a new location, leave a job, start a new job. Or maybe it's just a new revelation of who he is, and he asks us to respond to it some way in some type of action. And that's what faith is. Faith is the actual action of actually doing something because of what God's revealed. It's believing him, and it's responding. And it's understanding that the things that he said is true. And if we just leave it there, and we just believe what he said was true, and we just leave it in our hearts, but we don't respond, that's actually the opposite of faith. And we actually know about faith because we do it all the time. You know, if we think that God has given us a wife, or he's brought someone into our life, we still have to ask her to marry us. And that's an action. We still have to buy her a ring. If we think God is providing us a home, we still have to make an offer. We still have to have an action. You've been listening to Face to Face. Face to Face on this radio station has been provided by Your Neighborhood Church. If you want to help support Face to Face and put this program on other stations just like yours, you can contact us at yourneighborhoodchurch.com or write Your Neighborhood Church, P.O. Box 500, Romeo, Michigan 48065.
There's a place he comes to me. Though I'm blind, he helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see him face to face.
Tune in again tomorrow at this same time as we continue to go through the Bible.